MMAShower on SRBRadio.com.
Hello and good morning and good afternoon and good evening wherever you may be, and welcome to the MMA Shower episode 13, sponsored by hattonjameslegal.co.uk. For all your employment needs, please go to hattonjameslegal.co.uk. Okay, in this month's episode we'll be previewing UFC230, which is headlined by Daniel Cormier and Derek Lewis, and that happens on November the 3rd, UFC 230. Just before we get into the main part of the show, I'll just give out the usual information, how to contact the show. So by email is the MMAShow7, the MMAShow7 at gmail.co.uk, the MMAShow7 at gmail.com, sorry, it's not .co.uk. And the Twitter handle is at @GTheMMAShower, at @GTheMMAShower, and Facebook is Let's Talk MMA, Let's Talk MMA. So always welcome with your comments and questions, and please do keep them coming in. Okay, moving on to the main body of the podcast. Before we get into it, I'd just like to introduce my co-host, who is usually here and is here tonight. And he is Marcus, the Beast Cottrell.
There you go.
I was going to give you another nickname, but I thought I'll stick to the Beast. So,
Beast is stuck now for a while.
So how have you been, Marcus?
Very welcome. Bloody good, I think.
Yeah, good.
Weather's starting to turn. Autumn's on its way.
Yeah.
Batting down the
Dark
hatches.
dark nights are ahead.
Yeah.
And dark mornings as well.
But yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Okay, so we're going to run through 230, the main event, Cormier versus Lewis, and the co-main event, Weidman versus Sousa, Jacare Sousa. And we're going to go through some of, it's been quite a busy month in MMA. There was a little fight 3 weeks ago between Conor and Khabib, and that made a bit of noise in more ways than one.
Yes.
There's a fairly big fight, well, big in a way in terms of their names, coming up next month. I think it's November the 24th, which is Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. I think you could call them genuine legends of MMA.
Yeah, I think so. They both moved the sport on, didn't they?
Yeah, when it was still relatively isolated and secular.
Well, I think Tito, was first of the big brands that came into modern MMA, and his style of fighting moved the sport on.
Yeah.
Then it went from there, progressed then to Liddell's style of fighting, and the two clashed, the classic boxer and striker against the wrestler.
And personalities clashed.
Yeah, great. Apparently they used to be training partners at one point.
Yeah, they had some history of
They
training
fell out
together, and like most good training partners, fell out and decided to fight. So, but also I think Chuck Liddell was probably the first mainstream MMA fighter.
Yeah.
Which obviously Conor's taken to another level, but back in 2004, 5 and 6 it was still quite a small sport.
I agree. He was a good advocate for the sport as well. He was
in that music video.
Rockstar.
Rock Who Only Be a Rock Star.
Yeah.
Which was the band?
That was
Not Limp
Canadian band.
Kid Rock?
No. They also did.
Come on, Marcus, you know your rock music.
Come back to me in a second.
Okay.
Come back to me in a second.
But I would say he was probably the first mainstream MMA star.
Yeah, I think that's
crossover.
I think that's a fair comment. He was well rehearsed. He looked great on camera. Did exactly what he intended to do. Smashed everybody that they put him up in front of him. And I think Tito wanted that back, because Tito originally had that moniker. And he was the Huntington Beach bad boy, and people looked to him, for guidance and for what was happening, what was relative in the sport. And Chuck took that away from him, and he wanted it back.
Okay, we'll come back to that. I think it's worth chatting about, and it's there's some good stuff to talk about there. So Nickelback.
Yes.
That just came to me in a flash of pressing the enter key on the laptop.
I like it.
Okay, so UFC 230, which has had a bit of a change. We did have Weidman and Rockhold, 2 on the cards, but unfortunately Rockhold got an injury. So now it's Weidman, Souza, Jacare Souza. And give us your thoughts on that first. Outline the fighters and then prediction at the end.
Disappointed that Rockhold's had to pull out. I think if he focuses and he has the right training camp and the right fight strategy on the night, I think Rockhold is virtually,
I think Rockhold is probably one of the most gifted fighters.
He hasn't got it upstairs though.
Something's
missing
upstairs.
Missing, yeah.
He's probably cursing the day he decided to fight Bisping on 2 weeks' notice.
I was thinking about that on the way over, and you've got to hand it to Bisping. He was probably one of the fittest UFC fighters.
His cardiovascular was
never ever in
second
question.
to none,
and that made up for his lack of skills elsewhere.
Natural ability.
He very, very strong in mentally. Very, very well prepared. Always confident.
He never looked like he cut corners.
No,
he went through the mill.
He's got his doubters and this and that, but he was world champion.
Yeah, and you can't take that away from him.
Never backed away from a fight either.
No.
Disappointed that Rockhold's pulled out. However, Weidman versus Jacare.
Yeah.
I think 2 fighters who were heading towards, the ends of their career. I think Weidman's got a few more years than Jacare. Jacare's probably got a showbiz age.
Is
he looks great.
Late 30s officially?
I think
possibly a bit older.
I think
unofficially.
I think so. And I think in a different era, Jacare was probably world champion.
Has he got an African footballer's age?
Yeah, remember that guy?
Roger Miller.
Was he 50 or something?
Only 36.
I think, Jacare's a champion in a different time. But the
he was Strikeforce champion, and Rockhold beat him.
That's right, yeah.
They had a good fight.
They had a good fight. He was probably at the top of his game then.
Jacare, yeah.
But I think he would be a UFC champ if there weren't the likes. It wasn't such a stacked division.
Yeah. But Jacare fell down because he was on a very good win streak. And then out the blue, Robert Whittaker smashed him, knocked him out.
Yeah.
And then he sort of wobbled a bit and never recovered.
No, you're right. And also, Whittaker is just a steamroller.
Well, he's just proven he's such a beast.
So tough. And he's good in every area, Whittaker.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get knocked out by somebody, having said that, it started the slide for Jacare. Yeah. And I don't think he's ever
recovered.
And
at that time, Whittaker wasn't really known. So
Well, Jacare was on his way.
Exactly. He had a 5-win streak. And
he was on his way.
He only got blocked because Bisping was playing a few games. He wasn't defending.
Yeah.
And then he must have known GSP's coming back and he held out for him for the money, which is fair enough. Then Dan Henderson at the blue got a shot.
Yeah.
So that messed up Jacare a bit, but you're right, he was on the ascendancy and he really should have had a title shot by now.
I'm not sure he's world class anymore. I'm not sure he's world champion material.
Stand up, yeah.
I think there's too many guys who have got a better range of attack and defences than him. He's great on the ground. He's great striking. He's a tough guy, but he's just not good enough on the ground. Not good enough at striking, and not good enough at
not complete enough.
Just beating guys. I think Whittaker's come along and can just beat people up in front of him.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Jacare is going to. You asking for a prediction now?
Well, give us. What about Weidman?
Yeah, Weidman is former world champion. You know, he beat Anderson Silva. He came back. He defended. He was beating Romero. He was winning that fight, and then Romero out of nowhere jumps up out of desperation with that flying knee.
Yeah.
Weidman had a good fight against Rockhold as well.
Yeah.
Once again, I think. On his day,
he lost his belt to Rockhold.
Yeah, and on his day, I still think Weidman could be world champion, but I don't think he's got long to accomplish that.
Yeah,
maybe 18 months, and then he's going to start sliding a little bit more because he's taken a bit of punishment recently.
Yeah.
But he's confident. He's always fit, and he's tough and durable.
Yeah,
I'm not sure he's good enough to beat Robert Whittaker. Somebody might somebody else might have to do that for him, and then he beats the conqueror of Whittaker.
Yeah.
But he's probably the second or third best guy in the division, I think.
Yeah, certainly in the top
relevant,
5. Yeah. But so who do you think might take it from those?
I'm going with Weidman. I think he is going to school Jacare a bit. I think he's going to out jab him, rough him up, and drop him. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Pretty much agree with Jacare. What you said. A couple of years ago, he was the number one man. Yeah, and he should have had a title shot. But as we know, UFC is a promotion. It's not just a sports governing body.
Business, yeah.
It's a business. And for Bisping, there was better dollars with Henderson first, and then obviously GSP. And then by that time, Jacare lost his sort of ascendancy and
I think
status.
he became a bit disillusioned by it all as well, Jack.
Which you can't blame him.
No, I think he's a very
because you've been
straight-up
told,
man.
win your fights, win the best, beat the best, blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
And then...
It didn't help losing to Romero either. I think he expected to get through Romero.
Yeah, that was a good point.
That was his title shot, wasn't it then?
I think that was probably one of the eliminators, and he lost decision, I think.
Yeah, Romero roughed him up. Romero's a Hulk. So.
And this is where I think Jacare will have the problem with Weidman. Because Weidman and Romero are elite wrestlers, he can't just take him down.
Yeah.
And they don't have to take him down if they don't want to. They can rough him up standing up. They could grapple standing up against the cage, which is grappling, so they can...
Weidman's good at that as well.
Exactly. You know, with a bit of dirty boxing, a bit of knees, bit of pummeling, underarm pummeling, and just trying to tire him out. And then maybe towards the end of the third round, because it's a co-main, it's going to be 3 rounds, bring him down for a bit, maybe try a bit of ground and pound. But maybe not in the first round or 2, when Jacare would probably be at his strongest.
He'll be fresh. Yeah, I agree with all that.
So I think the elite wrestlers, they have the advantage if they fight an expert jiu-jitsu or submission artist. They don't have to go to ground unless they're really confident in their own submission skills.
Jacare has a great jiu-jitsu background.
Yeah, multiple world champion.
Absolutely. But Weidman's not afraid to go on the mat.
He's a finisher as well.
And he's got Sarah in his corner. Sarah has always been great, BJJ. I think wherever it goes, Weidman is quite confident. But I think he's more, if it's on the mat, if it's on the floor, that's fine. But standing up and roughing up and the wrestling and grappling, I think Weidman has a clear advantage.
Yeah. And then maybe take him to ground and use his own submission skills, ground and pound, soften him up, and then... There may be a submission waiting.
This could be the start of Weidman's charge for the title and for a shot against whoever.
Yeah, there's. It could be this fight and one more, or it could be this fight and the title, because we don't know what Robert Whittaker's doing at the moment. He's resting. He's had a very hard fight.
I did a read somewhere he was getting over some injury.
So
you put Rockhold back in the mix as well when he is fit.
Yeah. But
some interesting fights there.
Yeah, so my prediction is Weidman as well for probably the same reason as yourself. But I think just to expand on the sort of title picture, you've got to remember Kelvin Gastelum is there, and I think provisionally he's been sort of slated as being the next opponent for Robert Whittaker.
Right.
But I don't think it's guaranteed, and in the UFC, nothing is guaranteed.
Well, they've got to be careful with Gastelum. If Dana wants to put him in as a potential opponent or even a potential champ, if he thinks he stands a chance, then we've still got Romero to think about. So,
but he's lost twice to.
But he's
Whittaker.
I think he's marketable because he's very. He's a bit like a Nick Diaz character. He'll always
he's a bit renegade.
Bums on seats.
Yeah.
And he can beat anybody on. I mean, he's a light heavyweight, really.
Yeah, on the night.
Yeah, a huge guy, and he's a finisher, and he's exciting. But so do they give him Gastelum? But what if he beats Gastelum?
And then that's him out of the picture.
Exactly, that's screwed up the plans.
I don't think Romero can fight Gastelum for the title yet.
Yeah.
Like an eliminator, because Whittaker's still there.
Yeah.
So if Romero beats Gastelum, then he really, there won't be much call for a rematch.
A rematch between those two. I'd like to see some other opponents for Romero. I'd like to see him Rockhold maybe. I'd like to see
a Rockhold 2 could be marketable.
Yeah, great fight.
And then maybe if Weidman beats Souza, they could fight. I personally think Gastelum probably deserves. I think he's had 4 fights at middleweight because he was welterweight and then he had the weight problems. He impressively beat Bisping a month after Bisping got choked out by GSP. That has to be said, but he was impressive. He was nearly on the brink of beating Weidman, and then Weidman got him in a submission choke. And who else has he beat? He beat Johnny Hendricks.
Yeah,
but then
Hendricks.
That was
Big
towards
rigs.
the end. Yeah,
Big rigs. Knuckle fighting there.
Yeah. Paulo Costa.
Yeah,
he's is he a phenom or what?
A very, very quick fighter.
Yeah.
I think he's just not a brand yet. You know, the interesting.
He can't be many fights away. Two, three.
The interesting thing about this division is it's all full of products that we know. We know Rockhold, we know Romero.
They've been around
Weidman.
5 years.
They're all guys that we can relate to.
Yeah.
If Costa is still new, bring him in.
Yeah.
Maybe give him Gastelum or
that could be a real massive jump.
It would be a barn burner, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be a barn burner, and if Costa smashes Gastelum,
then you know he's legit.
Then he's ready for the title, and you could market it because Gastelum is, he's a top 5 middleweight. But I think that the Costa, maybe he could fight Rockhold next. That could be.
Just depends which Rockhold turns up. I mean, Rockhold on paper probably beats Romero more times than he loses. He probably does. On his night, he could beat Whittaker. It just depends what that missing link. If he can get it together, is he that bothered about being a world champ? Or would he rather pursue other avenues to make a lot of money?
Yeah, I think. I don't know if the ship has sailed for Jacare and Luke Rockhold in the UFC. That would have been, probably a fight to make, but I'm not sure if it's a fight to make now. And if it's not now, it's probably never.
Another interesting name you could throw into the mix because he has fought at middleweight. Well, there's 2. Anderson Silva. There's talk of him coming back, and also Nick Diaz coming back at middleweight. I'd love to see Diaz against Weidman or Diaz against Rockhold.
But hasn't Anderson's head been turned by Mr. McGregor?
He can't get to that. How could he? I don't think he could get
catch weight at 165 or 70.
That would favour Silva more because he'd come in at about 185 and he'd be too big for McGregor.
Yeah.
He'd have to. I mean, if McGregor wanted it at 45, but how could Silva get to 45?
No, he wouldn't get to that. I think they were maybe he did with Nate Diaz, 165, 68, just make a random figure in that ballpark and then.
Well, interesting enough, what did Poirier tweet a couple of, or was it Nate Diaz tweet a couple of weeks ago about a new division that the UFC were about to
165, which has been denied by Dana, which means it's means it's going to change in a month.
65 and 70 there's not a huge difference between
does it help the guy who's trying to kill himself at 155? Probably. So you probably walk around at 180, 190. Cut 20 pounds.
It's interesting, there was some talk about changing the weigh-in dates to from the night before and allowing them to bulk up so much before the fight.
Well, they're currently in the mornings, aren't they?
Well, but they still have that time and that opportunity.
Yeah, Friday morning to Saturday evening
to put on 12, 15 pounds
or more.
In some cases.
Yeah. I don't know how they could sort of regulate. You're like £10 over what your weight should be. So if you're a 170 pounder,
or what do you fight at what you walk around at?
Yeah, I don't think they can enforce that.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, and so if you're 170, if you're in the welterweight division, 170 on the night, you can't be more than 10%. So 177 or something like that. Anyway,
looking at Romero, I mean, he comes in on the scales 186, probably 185.
Yeah, just in that region. Yeah,
but he must fight at
200, 210. Yeah,
I mean, he's
easy.
huge.
Yeah.
A lot of it is fluids, obviously, because they drain themselves so much.
Yeah, they've got no fluids, and then you can drink a couple of gallons of water, and then
Eat some ice cream.
yeah,
just carb up, I guess.
Yeah, it's reloading, isn't it? So,
but I mean, putting that much weight back on 36 hours,
Can't be
before
good.
you fight,
yeah,
that's wacky, man.
it's and to lose it before the fight.
Yeah,
Then it's not normally within the 6-week training camp they lose the weight. It's in the last 48 hours.
Right, so they're not giving themselves 6 weeks
Yeah,
to get
it's
this
not
weight
really.
It's basically fluid depletion. I'm guessing they sweat it out.
15 pounds from Thursday night to Saturday night.
Fill a bag, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a stone of
that's nuts.
water. Yeah, and fat is 90% water. Muscle is 76% water.
Right, okay.
So majority of what your muscle and fat is water anyway. So when you lose water, you're effectively losing fat. That's why when people want to lose that last 10%, it's pure fat.
Right.
The first 90% is water, and that just that you can't get rid of that easily. It's that last 10 pounds or 15 pounds that most people struggle with. Anyway, that's enough for my nutritional advice. The main event, which is going to be a fun build-up, and is going to probably be an exciting fight as well, which is the current heavyweight champion, dual weight champion, Daniel Cormier versus Derek Lewis. And Daniel Cormier currently is the light heavyweight champion, and we'll discuss that a bit later about his fight, John Jones' fight with Gustafsson, Alexandra. So give us your thoughts on the main event.
So it wasn't the fight we were expecting.
No,
obviously
that's a
Lesnar
good
was,
point. Lined up.
Contract negotiations have stalled. Something's happened behind the scenes.
Yeah.
McMahon's decided no. Who knows? But Derek Lewis, a funny guy, a very cool guy outside of the cage. Big, strong, heavy. But he's a dead man. There's no way he beats Cormier. Cormier has better stamina. Cormier's wrestling is Khabib level.
Yeah.
His striking is super. Other than a freak event,
Knockout.
no way he gets near. Cormier controls that fight everywhere it goes, and I think he's going to throw Derek, the Beast Lewis, into the washing machine, hit spin cycle, rinse and repeat, and he'll end it when he thinks it's time to end it.
Yeah.
I just can't see Lewis. Lewis is game. He's going to get a payday.
Yeah.
Who else do they put in? Overeem's out. Cain Velasquez,
Miocic,
Vaduz,
Rematch.
Miocic does. The trouble with Miocic is he's a great guy, super striker, a real gentleman, but hard to get excited about, and that's the problem. The UFC is looking at this from a business point of view,
like we said at the start of the show. Yeah.
well, and what sells tickets.
Yeah.
Personalities sell tickets. BJ Penn sell tickets. Nick Diaz's.
But something that two fighters that probably weren't in that mould but sold tickets was GSP and probably Anderson Silva. They went about their business.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
won. But they were exciting fighters.
Yeah, you're right. And likable characters.
Yeah.
And their personality came out in the cage. I think.
Yeah.
Now, take nothing away from Cormier. He can be a little bit dull himself.
Yeah.
But a superb athlete, and at the heavier weight, I think he's better at heavyweight than he is at light heavyweight.
Yeah. So you've got Cormier for all day long.
100%, yeah.
Okay. Would you be putting any money on that?
No. I'm not a betting man. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think pretty similar. I mean, Lewis's obvious best chance is a big haymaker, connect
early on.
Yeah, early on, and it could spark out King Kong if he wanted to, and Godzilla together with his power, the Black Beast. No relation to Marcus. So that's the obvious thing, and the obvious thing from Cormier's side is wrestling, bit of dirty boxing against the cage,
and
getting
he's
tired.
So good at that as well.
Yeah, and
it tires you out.
And the blueprint is Cormier versus Anthony Johnson. Johnson, freakish power, knocking everyone out.
Caught him at the beginning of round one.
And Cormier took it. He got dropped for a second and just came back up, which I can't think anyone else ever did against Anthony Johnson. As soon as Johnson connected like that, they were out.
They're gone.
They were out for a nap.
Incidentally, rumours are gathering pace. Johnson coming back.
Heavyweight.
At
heavyweight.
Heavy, really?
Yes, that's what I've heard.
Man, he used to fight welterweight.
Oh,
Fought
Dan Hardy.
Koscheck.
He fought Dan Hardy and Koscheck. Yeah, 170.
So he's going to come in at about 240, I'm guessing.
Probably what he walks around at. He
is a big dude.
But didn't he do some connection with bodybuilding coaching and then NFL coaching and then a marijuana outlet? I don't know, medical marijuana. I don't know. I read some different stuff. Yeah, I've heard he's coming back, and I believe it's heavyweight.
Well, that fight that has always been on discussed, which was the John Jones fight that Jones allegedly never wanted to take.
Yeah. And crashed his car to avoid that fight. Yeah.
Which time was this? He's crashed a few cars, I think.
When he ran off, hit and run.
Oh yeah, that time.
But I think Cormier's got it. I think he'll make him tired and submit him, like he did with Johnson.
Yeah.
But Lewis can spark.
Yeah, he can, and he's there for a reason. You know, there's a great bit of footage actually. Lewis is sat on a chair in the same changing room. He shared the same changing room as Khabib, following the ruckus after the McGregor fight, and he's just there on his phone, and everybody walks in, and the press are there, and Derek Lewis is like, the cops are there, he's like, yeah, this is great, and then back to his phone. Real cool.
He's such a character.
Yeah, funny guy.
He's funny, he's amiable.
Yeah, very likeable.
He's cool, he's relaxed,
yeah, like
and he just says what's on his mind.
And you know, if you were probably to ask him, he'll hype the fight up. But if you're having a coffee with him and he's like, yeah, I'm probably not going to do too well in this fight. What do I care for? I'm going to get X amount of dollars. $1 million. I'm going to raise my profile, have a bit of fun.
Support his family.
Yeah. So I totally agree with him taking the fight for the right reasons.
Yeah. But he's honest enough to say Miocic probably deserves a rematch because he was champion for 4 defences.
Yeah, and Miocic has done nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong. But
I mean, he almost, he still, was in ascendancy in the beginning of that round. He was starting to win.
He had his moments. So he was, even though on paper first round, why would you give him a rematch? But he was champion and he did have his moments. So I'm going for Cormier submission, probably third round when he gets tired, third or fourth round.
Okay, because Derek Lewis, it's hard enough for Derek Lewis to get up by himself. So when you've got an Olympic grade wrestler on top of you,
30-pound wrestler,
keeping you down, how knackered,
and then beating you,
how hard breathing hard, he's
throwing punches.
You're going to be so, and he's relentless. Cormier, he's just like Khabib. Cain Velasquez, what, you heard anything?
Yeah, I mean, there was something in the MMA press saying that he's, remember Josh Thompson? Thompson, used to be in the UFC.
Hands of Stone.
Was it Hands of Stone? Something like that,
Yeah.
Or was that...
might have been somebody else.
The other guy, the
Sam.
flyweight.
Right.
There was a Sam guy as well, Hands of Stone, Sam Stout.
Right.
Yeah, he's saying Josh Thompson, former Strikeforce champion, he was saying UFC needs to stop bullshitting with Cain Velasquez. So I don't know if Cain's been talking to him and saying, he wants to get back. But Cain's had his injuries. But if he came back, you would have to put him there one fight away from the title, maybe.
Well, what is it? 3 years since he last fought?
Yeah, it's difficult. But did he lost to Verdum, didn't he? He got choked out.
Man, Verdum took him to school. Never seen Verdum
in Mexico.
Fight better fight.
Yeah, so Cain, I don't know is the honest answer. He's been saying he's coming back for a good year, but I don't know if it's injuries or the roster or...
Well, he had, I seem to remember some time ago, his coach became seriously ill. I'm not sure. I discovered what happened. He was very close to his coach, a real nice man as well.
Right, okay.
You'd recognize, I can't remember his name, his name escapes me.
Okay, so we've covered UFC 230, just changing angle a bit and just looking at MMA news around the world. And probably the most interesting thing to come out in the last few days is this weird trade that could happen between one championship, which is a MMA promotion mainly in Asia, Southeast Asia, the Philippines and Singapore, that area, and the UFC. And the two fighters involved are Demetrius Johnson, who defended his flyweight belt 11 times, 12 times.
Best in the world at one point.
Yeah, pound for pound. Recently lost to Henry Cejudo on decision. And they're trading for Ben Askren. And now I think Johnson must be still in contract with the UFC. Ben Askren retired after his last fight, which I think 6 months ago, but he still must be in contract. So maybe he had 3 fights left or whatever, and just said, "Look, I'm retiring." And there's obviously noise in the background going on, meetings and calls and whatever. So what are your thoughts on that strange news?
Well, firstly, Demetrius Johnson did nothing wrong at all. You know, like you said, an 11-fight winning streak. He beat everybody that was put in front of him.
But probably fell foul of that personality,
popularity. That's right. And that division as
business.
Well.
Yeah,
it was. It was a very, very.
Sometimes, if you're in a very exciting division, if you're the quiet one, it works because everyone else is buzzing and loudmouth and whatever. But if your division is not that exciting, you sort of have to carry it.
Well, I think both of
not
them,
just from a fighting point of view.
I think that's right, and I think both of them share being the big fish in the small pond. There, Demetrius Johnson couldn't be beaten at that way. I know he did lose against Henry, but prior to that, he was winning hands down. And Askren, just how good is Askren?
It's a question mark
because
at the moment.
He's always avoided the elite fighters,
which happen to be in the UFC.
So it's a business decision. I don't think Dana's going to lose any sleep over losing Demetrius Johnson. But I think he'd be happy bringing a Jake Shields type guy with a reputation over to the UFC and throwing him straight into the mix. I don't think he'll get a warm-up. I think he'll get a top contender. Let's see how you get on. Are you as good as you are? If so, there's talk of him already, bringing defending against him. That would be a real wrestling masterclass if that was to happen.
Yeah. And what weight would you think that would happen at?
You have to be 70, I think.
Yeah, but
I think so.
The problem with that is we've got Mr. Woodley sitting at the top of the mountain.
Well, in that case, yeah.
And Ben Askren is a friend from college days wrestling and training partner of Woodley, and he says he won't fight him.
They all say that, don't they?
Yeah, until he showed them
offers a few dollars.
How much?
And I mean, college was a long time ago. Woodley had a great showing against Till. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I agree with that matchup anyway. But Woodley, has certainly highlighted his skill set and raised his profile and his value. Askren, bring him in, sure, throw him in. Let's see what happens. They're all going to land somewhere, and it's exciting. Askren, I've been an admirer of his skills. I know some people call him boring because he likes to take the fight to the ground, drags you down,
and mauls, and just sometimes does a bit of ground and pound, but sometimes can just do the same thing for 3 rounds, 5 rounds. But I do appreciate the grappling, the wrestling skill that's required, and the aptitude to apply that to MMA. It's not an automatic formula, great wrestler, great MMA fighter, or great MMA wrestling, because it's obviously different. You've got a cage and other aspects as well, and a guy that can punch you and kick you while you're trying to take him down. I'm looking forward to it if it happens. Strange one. So obviously these are contracts, and if you get the right lawyers together, you can manipulate your contracts and change them to however you want if both parties agree, which is going to happen. And I'm just thinking about the weight class. Could it be that 165 comes in, and that's why Ben Askren is so keen to come into the UFC?
What does he fight at the moment?
170. He is a 170. He was welterweight champion at Bellator, welterweight champion at one championship. So,
it could be another reason. Dana makes, it's not a huge secret, makes no bones about. He doesn't like
Askren.
No, he doesn't like Woodley.
Yeah, he doesn't like Askren.
Really?
Because Askren should have come in 3 or 4 years ago, and Askren told a story on Joe Rogan's podcast. I won't go through the whole story, but basically got blocked by Dana. He had a meeting in LA with Las Vegas, Fertitta Brothers, Dana, and then something said, and he feels that Dana blocked it because Askren is a personality, and he can trash talk in his own way. He doesn't make it up like Conor does, and I think everyone's seen that with the Khabib fight. Conor just makes it up, even if he doesn't really believe it, which he doesn't most of the time. But Askren, he was tweeting stuff about Dana 4 years ago. He's a fat bully, bold, blah 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 on TRT, insults over Twitter. Which, if you're going to go to work for someone, you don't want to call your boss a fat, bold.
Not really.
Yeah. They may not welcome you with open arms, which is understandable. So, but money is money, and Dana's probably seen the pound signs or dollar signs, and so he doesn't like him, so he doesn't like Woodley. But I'm just thinking he has gone on record saying he wouldn't fight Woodley, but like you said, that could change.
Well, Covington as well. He's quite willing to jump up and have a go against Woodley.
Well, that should have been the fight. Then Till came in from nowhere. Do you remember when Covington got injured or needed an operation when was the Woodley fight? August or June or something? July? Yeah, so Covington, I think, is the next opponent for Woodley. Because Covington's the interim champ, because he beat Dos Anjos. And obviously Woodley's the champ. So you got 2 champions, which doesn't look good in a division. You should only have 1 champion. Well,
I think the last performance against Till has kind of saved Woodley's career. He's gone out for some surgery or something now, but Covington can step back in and he can perform as the champion, even though he's the interim, until they do finally meet.
Yeah.
But I think Woodley's personality hasn't helped over the last few years.
He hasn't done himself any favours,
and he has had some very lackluster performances.
Yeah, Damian Maia, the first Wonder Boy of the second fight. There was a flash of a bit of a knockdown, but
that was it.
It was dancing. The rest of it, wasn't it? So,
whereas Covington's he's a wind-up pair of Duracell powered.
Yeah, he'll just keep going and keep going.
He just keeps going.
I mean, he just virtually shut down Dos Anjos. Dos Anjos was obviously riled up with some of the stuff that Covington was saying,
but he beat him everywhere.
Yeah, standing up against the cage,
sitting down
on the floor.
It was all over.
And he's not scared to take down high level.
He's good at it. He's really good at it as well.
Because do you remember the fight with Damian Maia in Brazil when he said the stupid things and nearly got?
Didn't matter.
He took down Maia, and Maia can work off his back and tie you up like a pretzel.
Yeah.
But he must have enough confidence in his wrestling and grappling to defend, a jiu-jitsu fighter off his back and pummel him and ground and pound and then get back up, and then that becomes a tiring cycle. So, interesting. I think Askren will be a good addition to, if it is the welterweight or the 165, but let's assume welterweight.
Well, the interesting thing is he's also getting older now, so he hasn't got long left.
Yeah, he's must be early 30s, so
that level
he
of
should be peak now.
Yeah, so if he gets
experience and fitness is normally what you mean by peak.
He gives 2 or 3 years with the UFC, makes himself a lot of money. And
but I like the way he trash talks. He's honest, like a bit like Chael. Chael doesn't trash talk every opponent. If he has a genuine beef or dislike, he'll make it funny and because he didn't say anything against Fedor.
He had a lot of respect for Fedor as well.
But before that, Ortiz, he was so funny against Tito Ortiz and
Chael's a master.
Yeah. And
you know what? He doesn't care. Win, lose or draw. He's just there. He's making a name for himself, continuing his legacy and making some money.
Yeah. But I think what could be interesting is Askren Till. But would Till dare take that fight? Because Askren's got so much experience.
I think Till, has to decide what kind of fighter he is.
Go up or stay there.
Well, he's got the frame certainly to go up.
Yeah.
But maybe not be so cautious and go out And if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose in style. I'd love to see him fight a Nick Diaz or an Anderson Silva. You know, styles make fights, and it just wasn't his night against Woodley. Maybe another couple more fights, and he gets another title shot. And who knows, Woodley might be dethroned by then, and he fights a different champ.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I think it'd be good if Askren can come in and maybe, like you said, give him a top fighter if he comes through that. Maybe give him a title shot. Could be the road to go. Then he would be a champion in Bellator 1 and UFC. So every promotion, a bit like Eddie Alvarez, every promotion he's been in, he becomes champion. Okay, moving on to we'll just talk about Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz 3, which is happening on November the 24th. I think genuinely they're legends. I think we said that before. Chuck is 48 and Ortiz is 43. So Ortiz is the
significant
younger fighter. Yeah, just give us your thoughts and give us a little prediction.
Okay, yeah. Liddell's run out of money, so the rumours, if you believe the rumours, needs to fight more than Ortiz. Who's
I think Tito's invested it.
Yeah, very smart businessman. And you know what? They'll play their roles. It's like a pantomime here. You've got the bad guy who'll say that this. You've got the guy that represents.
Who's the bad guy?
Well, it's Tito. He's the Huntington Beach bad boy.
Yeah.
I think I think, yeah. I mean, gosh, I'll watch it. I'm not going to... I don't think it's the right thing. I think Liddell could get seriously hurt in this fight. He's probably got a round in him. Maybe not even a 5-minute round, but he's probably got a round in him before he starts to blow hard. I'm not sure the life he's been leading over the last few years is one that would suggest he could be as fit and strong as he could have been had he chosen, you know, a more life.
Pious Spartan.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I think Tito gets him. I think Tito gets him down. I think there'll be a few strikes landed by Chuck, but he just hasn't got the ammo that he used to have, and I don't think he's got the stamina. His stamina was never questioned. He was always a fit guy beforehand.
Yeah.
He's been hurt towards the end of his career with the UFC. He got hit a lot and knocked down.
Was it 4 knockouts?
No,
3.
Rashad Evans did him. Rich Franklin did him. Who else knocked him?
Rampage,
yeah, did
violently. Did Vanderlei Silva?
Vanderlei, so he lost. No, Vanderlei Silva lost the fight, but he did knock Liddell down.
Yeah.
So
but it was like 4 out of 5. He had complete, not just knockdowns. He was cold.
Spark out gone. And I think that's had a real. And Tito can punch. And Tito has remained very much in great shape. I think he's had his own problems with his own personal life and his various marriage breakups and arrests and domestic problems. But I'm going with Tito. And I think we'll see an old 43. You still more or less you've got a high percentage of your skills you had in your late 30s,
and your sort of agility and speed.
Yeah.
It's coming towards the end, but late 40s and 50s, it's literally gone at that level.
Yeah, and he's looked after himself. I think that's quite important.
Yeah, it's that's a key to how you look after yourself up to that point.
And Tito's never taken huge amount of punishment. You know, the style of fight that he used to fight, it was generally on the ground rather than stand-up. But he's got a decent stand-up game.
Yeah.
But no, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I think Tito, because he's been active in the last few years, like you said, Liddell's last fight was 6, 7, 8 years ago, so maybe when he was 40, late 30s, and that finished in, I think his last fight was the Franklin knockout.
Right.
I can't remember a fight after that. So 8 years without, 7 years without a fight, that's a long time.
Of a Vegas lifestyle.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. On top of that, you overlay lifestyle, and then he's training hard for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. Does that make up 7 years, 8 years of partying and eating what you want, drinking what you want, and God knows what else? I can just see one winner, and that's Ortiz. He beat Sonnen a year ago,
he did,
18 months ago.
Yeah.
So he's obviously still in training camp mode and fighting mode, and looks after himself. But Ortiz used to be a good trash talker. I don't know what happened to him in the last 7-8 years of the UFC. He just sounds like an idiot, to be honest.
He's gonna get. I bet you he comes out with the line, "You're going to be the last of the Mohicans if you get into that case." I mean, how many times has he used that line?
Yeah, he's very corny and cringy when he tries to trash talk, and especially against Chael and Master. And then he was trying to come back with something. I think Chael, when they were one of the press conferences, and Tito came in a suit, and Chael said something like, Tito's coming. I think Tito's suit was in a sale at the funeral parlour. He's come in a dead man's suit or something.
Chael moved the whole sport on, verbally, as a lot of other fighters did physically, and it was very.
But yeah, so I think Liddell being out so long, that's going to be, and then Randy Couture said that quite recently. That's his biggest concern. Yeah, I think Randy Couture was on the MMA Hour, and he said that's his biggest concern. He's been out so long. Yeah. So so I can only see Ortiz going, winning. Sorry. The main card. It is a pay-per-view event. $49.99, and someone called Kenneth Berg versus Jorge Gonzalez. And Galician Tabo, which I think was a UFC.
Yeah, I remember him.
Very muscular Brazilian.
Like a little Hulk.
Yeah, mini Hulk, and against Efrain Escudero.
He was UFC as well. Yeah. He was in the UFC. I think he won the TUF series.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he's been out for off the scene for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to finish off with a fan question. And we're going to see what your thoughts are on here. So let's have a look at the emails we've got and just pick one at random. So actually there's an email from Ben in Surrey, England, and it's about fighters coming back in their 40s and 50s, which we've been talking about, and should there be a completely different division, like a Masters division?
Interesting.
So 42 to 50, you know that's your division, and
Mark Coleman,
Randy Couture, and Liddell and Henderson, and
well, if they're going to do it, yes.
And you call it Masters because they've done everything and they're at the peak in their age. Yeah. Obviously, their physical age doesn't allow that anymore. So you don't want to give them younger fighters, 8, 9, 10 year gaps.
Yeah. You I guess you're bringing them all together, and the skills they've got, and the
physicality, they're going to be in a similar,
very, very similar
vein. Yeah.
If it was going to be a regular thing, then I think having an older fighters, a division is probably the answer.
Yeah. Because in golf they have a Masters division.
They do,
circuit, and in tennis as well.
Mm.
So you recognise you can slow down Mother Nature, but you can't stop it. Obviously, aging takes place.
Is it a sport then, or is it more of a spectacle? Do you want to see? Are you watching to see somebody get really hurt, or are you watching to see someone awarded an accolade, or is it just some kind of morbid interest to see how bad they look, or how well they've come through?
Well, I think it's because they're physically going to be within a few years of each other. You're not exposing one guy to someone 10 years younger or 15 years younger. So you shouldn't really get a spectacle of a one-sided beating because someone's younger and fitter and just, going to maul them. So physically they're going to be at a similar status. But skill sets, it's probably going to appeal to guys like us, slightly older.
Because we remember the old guys.
We remember them at their peak. Yeah. And then it would attract some young guys who with YouTube and other channels.
But how does that going to make us feel, though? I mean, seeing idols and celebrated individuals that we used to support and root for, seeing them in their 50s or late 40s, scrapping like a couple of dads in the car park after they've argued about a parking space.
But
I'm not sure I'd want to. I mean, I shall watch Liddell Ortiz.
Yeah.
Is it the shape of things to come because they've got the big enough personalities to still sell tickets?
It's a small market, and it's a small opportunity for fighters. You're only going to get a certain amount of fighters who reach that age at their top, at their peak, and have made enough of a name for themselves that people will buy it. And
it's like a brand war in
it's
a
a brand.
supermarket.
And so the sort of market capture is relatively small. But there could be, if you structured it properly, there could be a place for it. But I suppose you don't know how fighters are going to be after 42, 43, 47.
Well, it depends as well. We just touched upon this earlier about the type of fighter and type of punishment they took. For example, Diego Sanchez, Vanderlei Silva.
Him in his 46, 47, is he going to be anything like that?
Is he going to be in?
Yeah. So they wouldn't suit every fighter.
Junior Dos Santos, the damage that they've taken, they've probably already got, the mental problems of a 60-year-old or something because of the amount of damage that they've taken in the octagon.
And it's probably taken years off their career anyway.
That's right. So the nervous system's going to be slower, the reaction time, the mental stability, all these things have to be considered. Yes. But if it was going to be a regular thing, then there probably has to be some sort of division. Yeah.
Okay, I think that wraps up the podcast. Really enjoyed that, Marcus.
Yeah, of course. Can we just mention before we go the after fallout?
Oh, of course, yes. The little fight of Khabib and Conor. And first of all, give justice to the fight. What did you think? Let's talk about.
Well, I picked Conor. You rightly picked Khabib.
Yeah.
What did I think? I thought McGregor didn't really turn up. I think he
was it that 2-year gap or
quite possibly. His cardio was an issue. Cardio was certainly an
There's
issue.
rumours of his lifestyle being similar to Liddell.
And it's going to have an impact on fight night. He looked in shape. He made weight. He made all the right sounds.
Yeah.
Khabib, no surprises there. Was just able to exercise his game plan and play to his strengths better than McGregor was. I think McGregor had a good third round, but he'd lost his snap and he'd lost his strength and his
threat.
Speed. Then
he wasn't a threat at that third round.
Even though he was having thwarted a couple of takedown attempts, was catching Khabib more openly, but couldn't finish him.
But I think people are saying that Khabib stuck to his game plan, and obviously wrestling, grappling was the strength. But for me, the most obvious thing there, and if you're in Conor's sort of camp, probably the most concerning thing is that Khabib beat him standing up.
Yeah, I agree.
He knocked him down. And what was Conor saying about Khabib? He's an amateur, he's sloppy, you got knocked down by a sloppy amateur stand-up guy.
You could tell. I think what McGregor did was he had a training camp that he controlled. Lads, I not necessarily want to train tomorrow, let's take the day off. He should have gone back to basics and done and acted and trained like it was his first fight.
Yeah.
And this was his title shot. Whereas he was calling the shots. A bit similar to BJ Penn when he would have his training
at
camps.
the peak, he
didn't used to listen to his trainers, he did it all his own way. And Conor worked on his takedown defence and just absolving any punishment that was meted out on him by Khabib, just surviving being on the floor, getting back up. He neglected his striking.
He could have been stopped in the second round.
Yeah, I agree.
Herb Dean was almost sort of dipping into.
I think Herb was right to let it go.
Yeah.
I don't think he was hurt badly, but towards the end of that round, clearly a 10-8 round, he was starting to feel the punch, starting to get through.
Yeah.
And then he was blowing so hard. And you listen to the commentators, was it Anik, I think, and Rogan?
Yeah.
They were both commenting.
Was it Cruz? Yeah.
Yes, Dominic Cruz. He's a very knowledgeable guy.
He's a very knowledgeable guy, but I think he took a bit of flack in the second round. He was saying Conor's trying to rope a dope. by taking punches in the face. Not for that long.
He's a fan of Conor. But you know what? I would like to see a proper Conor turn up for a rematch. I also thought Khabib towards the end was running out of ideas and was starting to blow a little bit himself. Had Conor got Tony Ferguson sort of stamina,
Yeah.
or Bisping's sort of stamina,
Yeah.
he could well have taken it into the later rounds and maybe
Well,
finished
that's
it.
an interesting thing. Ferguson, if Khabib does want to take him down, Ferguson is amazing off his back.
Deadly off his back.
Yeah, with his elbows and his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So Javier Mendez in Khabib's corner as a coach and strategist. What you say, keep it standing up, but Ferguson's quite unorthodox standing up.
Well, what you do is you let Khabib come at you.
Take you down.
If you want, and then you control the round arc, get back up, and you have a go. Let you go at him then.
But then, mate, on the other side of the coin is Ferguson. He's good off his back, but he hasn't been on his back to someone as skilled as Khabib.
Yeah, yeah.
There's been on your back to some guy who doesn't really know what they're doing, panics, just trying to go for ground and pound, puts his arm there, and you just do a triangle or armbar or whatever. But that has to be the next fight. If UFC want to keep some legitimacy as a sport, not just a money-making promotion, which I understand why, you've got to make Ferguson and Khabib.
What was written into the original agreement? Is it an automatic rematch? Has it already been arranged?
Could be,
Conor's mentioned this before, and suggested that does seem to be the case. Ferguson deserves a title shot. Having said that, if he doesn't get it, there's a ton of other interesting fights for Tony Ferguson. But I would imagine he's probably the next champ, whether or not Khabib even fights again for the UFC.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Conor and Tony go at it as well.
Yeah.
That'd be a great fight.
That could be like an eliminator. Yeah. There's a good chance.
Khabib's taken some flack over what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
And he's such a gentleman, such a calm individual, and his entourage.
Which goes to prove he must have been pushed pretty extreme.
Yeah, a lot of stuff was said behind the scenes as well. But I mean, that's crazy. But what that does, that's a lifeline for Dana, because he said that the NSAC are going to go after Khabib with everything that they've got, which would suggest he knows if he gets stripped, the dollar signs are going to be like fruit machine dials. Dana's going to see such an opportunity. So, yes, Tony fights Conor for the title. If Conor wins, he defends against Khabib. Maybe
there's a few possibilities.
There's loads of plausible
But the
fights.
big question that the UFC are going to get, because they were getting some of the blame for using footage of the bus attack. Now, as a violent act, what Conor did is 1,000 times worse than what Khabib did. Khabib went after another trained athlete, and that was it, But what Conor did was use weapons. And
Dana was asked about this.
Yeah.
Interesting. He said,
"Why did you use that footage? You justify." And Dana's still saying nothing to do with it.
Dana also said it was in the court's hands.
Yeah, there was no discipline from athletic. But
that's right.
Like we said before, UFC are not an athletic commission; they're just a promotion,
Entertainment. That's all.
They're a business.
No, that didn't happen when he attacked the bus. That wasn't fight night. It wasn't in the octagon. People hadn't played tickets to watch the fight.
But he cost a few fighters.
Yeah, it was a stupid thing to do. He should never have been allowed through. How he got through, who knows?
Well, obviously, it was an inside job. Someone knew someone, security, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm trying to get to is, if Conor and Khabib have a rematch, why shouldn't they use the footage of the after event, the cage jumping out, as a build-up? Why wouldn't you use it?
Of course they will. They'll use it.
Yeah.
I would use it if I was marketing that fight.
Yeah. Well, it's perfect marketing.
I would get everything.
It hasn't cost them anything.
And you know what? The hard work's been done.
Exactly.
There's a grudge there.
Yeah, genuine.
Okay, let's
it's
milk
real.
this. Let's milk this grudge for everything that it's worth. And rumours are that Khabib knows he's going to get stripped. Who knows? It's all.
That's
rumors.
why he wants to fight Mayweather.
Okay.
Khabib.
Yeah. Heard that one, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. Just leave that alone. But
you know what? We're talking about what happened after the fight, and that kind of overshadowed.
Yeah, that's why I started
in the ring
with the fight first, rather than after. But you're right. There was just as much, probably more press after what happened after than. And that's why I'm saying it's getting lost a bit that Khabib beat Conor standing up. Take the wrestling out, he beat him standing up. I give round 3 to Khabib still.
Yeah.
Conor was coming back a bit, but he wasn't doing anything significant. It looked like Conor succeeded because he never got taken down. But Khabib's confidence by the third round, because he knocked him down in the second, he was walking into his punches, into his left hand, because he was saying, well, you're not going to hurt me, but I can hurt you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And by that time, Conor had lost that lost that strength.
Yeah. And he was going for long uppercuts.
And big haymakers. It was, I think Khabib knew that.
So that's why I think Conor can't really do anything different. He can't really improve his stand-up. He can't really improve his takedown defence. And Khabib can improve both, probably.
I think that's a good point. But I think the only thing Conor can improve is his cardio. Fitness. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that's lifestyle then.
He's got to take 12 months off, or whenever if the fight does happen,
whatever the timeline is.
Yeah, and just.
Or he's got to start thinking this time next year I will be fighting and start living
right now. Quit that.
Right. Yeah, whatever you do. Yeah.
Quit the proper 12. And
or maybe have it with a lot of water and ice. Diluted a bit. But no, it was a great fight. I didn't watch it live. I was away, but I watched it afterwards. And I just think, it is only business, but there's some boundaries you can't go over. Family and religion are massive boundaries.
Well, you know,
I don't know if that's an Eastern thing. We think like that in the East and not in the West, but I don't know.
And that's what Conor does. He targets those subjects and those points that maybe he shouldn't. Yeah. And that's what gets him in the public eye. And another interesting point is the UFC is beginning to lose its characters. Now, love or hate Diaz or McGregor or Colby, but they're real characters. Colby's a different generation. He's coming in, but the likes Conor, Conor hasn't got that much longer left at the top of his game.
He doesn't need to because of money.
Because he's made so much money.
Yeah, it changed a lot for him, and and Conor's trash talk. It's obviously research. It's not off the cuff.
No,
and I can't respect that anymore.
No, and Chael's gone.
Yeah,
and Tito's gone. The real trash talkers. Have all and the UFC more than anything, it needs brands, and the brands are the personalities.
Yeah,
and the personalities come through either in the cage, like Khabib or GSP, or outside of the cage, like McGregor,
and mix it within the cage.
That's right, and control it. Yeah. But basically, because McGregor has become too powerful,
he effectively does what he wants.
Basically, don't do what he wants.
Yeah,
but even Dana wouldn't have foreseen the reaction after the fight, Khabib.
I think
so he's rubbing his hands together at that footage.
As you said, promotional material.
You couldn't have asked for a better.
It would cost you billions to build that.
To stage that.
It's for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you put it into a loop.
And I know
2 weeks before the next fight.
Totally agree. And you know what? I'd watch the fight. I'd pay for it. I'd watch the fight again.
Yeah, let's be honest. I think some people try to give a media representation. Oh, it's a black eye for the sport, blah, blah, blah. We're gentlemen and... Okay, but you're really fighting in the cage.
Well, it made...
But then the martial arts side of me, which is what we did and you currently still do 20-odd years ago, there is the martial arts element and you really shouldn't be behaving like that. But then it's prize fighting.
It made, you're right, and it will always go on.
Yeah,
it will always go on, and it made the headlines of most of the major newspapers over here,
and the international news channels.
Yeah,
BBC World News and obviously Sky, and there's a international news channel called RT, Russian Today. Khabib was on there. Yeah, the meeting with Khabib meeting.
Saw that.
Vladimir Putin was there and his dad, so that it was on mainstream news channels. So don't worry about Khabib. He'll be a rich man now. He's got half his money. He'll get his pay-per-view,
and also
he'll get a lot of money from Russia.
Yeah, totally agree. Sponsorship deals, recognition.
Yeah.
Now the UFC aren't stupid. They own those two guys still, so they will want
contract. Yeah.
While it's still hot and it's still in the mix. Let's set that fight up. Give Tony somebody else. And let's do that.
I don't think they'll take the title off him. I think they'll ban him for 6 months, which means he was going to rest anyway. So by let's say 6 months from now, is April next year, he'll be back ready for a fight. And if it's Conor, it's Conor. If it's Ferguson, it's Ferguson. So like you said, I'd watch it again. Can't see any reason why not.
Yeah.
And but it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see what tactics in the cage Conor changes. But does he change anything about his trash talking? Now he's sort of exposed it's only business. Well, maybe people knew that anyway. But do you really take? And also he tries to give this image as a die-hard warrior, but he's tapped again, and it wasn't really a under the throat choke.
Apparently
it was across the face.
It was.
Yeah, it's a jawbreaker.
It's a jawbreaker.
Yeah, it's horrible. But
I probably had tapped before that.
Just as you, as the referee said, "Are you ready?" Tap.
Then collected my 20 million and gone.
Partying. But so it's interesting. But thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, of course.
Good to see you again. Hopefully, get you back next month.
Yeah, let me know. Thanks.
Preview, review, and
enjoyed it.
Yeah. So this was the MMA Shower episode 13, sponsored by hattonjameslegal.co.uk. Please contact the show via email, the MMAShow7@gmail.com, Twitter handle @GTheMMAShower, and Facebook Let's Talk MMA. Let's Talk MMA. So thank you for listening, and have a safe journey. Have a good day wherever you are, and we'll see you next month. Thank you. Bye.